Hello again, everyone. Welcome back. In this technical analysis of the stock market video, I called it, and then there's oil, because that ain't going away. And yeah, we've had a little couple-month pullback. Let's check in and see where we are. But first, we're going to focus on the Dow Industrials this weekend and a couple of our key indicators, and then look in detail at the S&P 500 Energy ETF, XLE, and then briefly look at 5 major oil company stocks and just from a high level and just see what might be going on. Okay, so let's start off here with the side-by-side view of the industrials, the S&P, and the Nasdaq 100. The Dow was up 438 points this last week. Now it's interesting. So we're getting a little bit of a bounce. After April, we had a decline of almost 2,000 points for the month of April. Now, what's interesting about this picture here is look how it's closing back above the 10-week moving average. The 10 is still above a very strongly rising 21-week moving average in here. They're all still aligned to the upside. So it's going to be really interesting to see, is this just counter-trendish or is something else going on? And when you take a look at the S&P 500, it was up about 28 points. Second week in a row for it closing above that 10-week moving average. And then when you look over here at the NDX, it was up almost 173 points, and it was doing a similar type thing, closing back above the 10-week moving average. You know, after having an inside up candle on all of the, well, on the S&P and the Nasdaq, we're still trading within the range of that week, the week of April 14th, okay, and on the S&P and the Nasdaq. Not so much on the Dow, a little different picture of what's going on. Let's take a look at the industrials versus the Dow Transports. So the transports were up 177.52, but the picture isn't quite as strong as what it looks like here on the Dow. The other thing I wanted to point out, and you'll see this when I drill down to the weekly and daily, is there was like a support level that I had identified down in here with all of the price congestion that happened back towards the end of the year into the beginning of the year. And we came right down to that 3 weeks ago and turned around, reversed off of it. So it's going to be interesting. This too, are they going to get back in sync? They've kind of been out of sync here between the transports and the industrials. So we'll see what happens. Let's go back and take a little closer look at the industrials. Okay, I'm going to go back over here to my home page, and here's where we've got what the Dow did today. And you can see that right here, up 450 points. Everything was, for Friday, everything was positive today. And for the week, again, up it says 436. I go to that other chart, it says 437. It's close. So let's take a look at the Elliott Wave picture. Okay, so let me go to the weekly view. So here's what I'm still counting as my primary count, is that I'm working an A, B, C flat right now after having achieved a cycle wave 5 completion here in January of 22. This looks like it's carving out a flat. Now I think it's a flat for the first wave of a much larger super cycle, but right now one thing at a time. Okay, so here's the caveat on this whole pattern right now. If we reverse and push higher like we did this week and continue to come up and take out the March highs, then I am not going to continue to give this B wave the benefit of the doubt. We're going to move to the alternate count that is a much stronger, more bullish scenario going on. But I really can't jump to that yet because this is a legitimate, valid pattern, Elliott Wave pattern that's going on. It's somewhat similar to what happened between 1966 and 1970 at the beginning of that huge 66 to 82 sideways volatility that happened. So it could get really, really interesting here over this next 1 to 2 years. So we'll see what happens here. First of all, what happens over the next couple of months. Okay, enough on that. Here's where we sit. And right now, when I look at, coming down, the way I'm counting this, and I'm not showing it on the daily, I'm showing it down below in the 130-minute time frame. I'm counting this as 1, 2. Not sure the second wave is complete yet. I'm looking for a series to work its way down. Okay, but this could also turn into an A, B, C, and then does something different and flips on us. So again, we just have to keep an eye on the wave structure and the price action as we continue to, move down. Okay, so that's the picture that we've got on the Dow Industrials, the daily, weekly picture. Let's take a look at a couple of indicators. Now, some of these indicators, let me go back to the daily view. Let me go here, and I hate it when it crunches that up like that. Let me go to the VIX. Of course, everybody looks at the VIX, but you can see what's happening today. Down $1.18, closing at 13.49. We are back down in the basement again. It didn't take long either, did it? After that big strong move up here, gapping above the 20 level, and then we just collapsed. So right now, this is just totally in sync with the market saying, yeah, it looks like it wants to go up. So we'll see what happens here. Let's take a look at the percent of stocks on above their 50-day moving average. Now, the S&P 500, 42.8%. So this hasn't really flipped yet. Okay, we'll see if it does. It may not. It may just continue to come on down further, get down below 30 and 20 like it's done before. Okay, so we'll see what happens. But it's interesting when you take a look at the New York. The New York is all of a sudden acting stronger than the S&P 500 on the numbers, which has really kind of caught my attention because that hasn't really been the case. So we're sitting at 47.3%, actually hit the 50% level, and this is on the New York Stock Exchange. Percent of stocks above their 50-day moving average. So those are just a couple of the indicators we look at every day, and a couple of things that kind of give us a little bit of a reading as to what's going on. But let's take a look at the S&P 500 Energy ETF XLE. Okay, here's XLE. It was actually down 2 cents on Friday, down $3.20 on the week. So yeah, that strong pullback that's going on. West Texas Intermediate and the futures was down 90 cents today. And it's interesting, this was the only ETF that's showing in the red, only sector, I should say. I've got 11 S&P sectors, plus I got a couple extras. I got the semiconductors and the regional banks, the banks, and real estate in here. Okay, so that's what's happening with the daily view today, just what I call the moving average view in here. What I want to do is take a look at the weekly scenario, and I want to show you some of the ranges, how the ranges have been shaping up. And let me look, just kind of scrunch this down a little bit and go back. So you can see back into 2019, the huge range that occurred in 2020. And then we got a little tighter, did not take out the 2020 high. And then all of a sudden here in 21, and then in 22, we break above both of those levels and continue to surge. But then what we did here in 22 and 23 just kind of sat there and compressed. So now what are we doing? We've kind of broken above that. Now we've pulled back. So the real question is, are we getting a little pullback into just kind of the top of this range? Is it, somewhat similar, although we didn't get much of a pullback in terms of breaking out above the tops of the ranges in here, the 20 and 21, what we did in 22. So When I look at the Elliott Wave picture, which I think that's the next thing I want to look at. Yeah, I want to go to this orange scenario. Now this is the weekly view. So let me blow this out. Okay, so here's what I've got on XLE. It looks to me like we've had a big sideways wave 4. We had wave 1, sharp wave 2 pullback, strong wave 3 coming off the 2020 low in here, November. And then now this projects for a wave 5. So when I look at this, I think, well, okay, I project the channel from an Elliott Wave perspective from the top of the third wave out in here, parallel to 1, 2, and 4. And it's interesting that it actually turns out to be right at the top of that channel is where wave 5 is equal to wave 1. So this is going to be real interesting to see if this can really get ahead of steam on it. And I'm not saying it's going to do it, with this year. I'm just projecting up into this territory. And so what's the target? Where does wave 5 equal wave 1? At 162. Okay, so that's a decent ballpark number. We'll see if it continues to unfold. First of all, it's got to get above 100 and continue to push. But right now, it looks and acts like, it's wanting to break out. And let's take a look at some of the big majors. Okay, let's start off with ConocoPhillips. This looks like it had a big sideways type of triangle in here that it broke out to the upside the week of March 24th, ran for a couple of weeks, and now has pulled back to the top, back to the top of that triangle actually, or near the apex, I guess is what you call it. So I would be watching really close to see, does this start to get its feet underneath it and turn and get ready to go back to the upside and start pushing again, be in sync with what we just talked about on XLE. Now, there's a whole bunch of these that we're watching, but some of these really caught my eye. Devon Energy is another one that had this kind of a declining wedge type of pattern. We broke out of it to the upside. And now we've had a 3-week little pullback too. It almost looks like a little bull flag in here, sitting at $50.54. Halliburton is an oil services company. This looks like a big ascending triangle. Now the top isn't perfect with but it's in the neighborhood in terms of where these 3 tops were for the line that I drew. Okay, I just took it off the middle one. And so now we're going to be watching to see, does this also, after a few week pullback, start to flip and push to the upside? That could get real interesting. Occidental Petroleum. This, I think, is one of Warren Buffett's investments. He's been in it for a while, quite a while, actually. This is sitting at $64.39. It, too, looks like it kind of erupted out of this big triangle in here. It almost looks like a pennant, like a large pennant on a weekly basis is what it looks like. And then the last one I'll just show is Valero, which is a big refiner. Okay, they have some distribution also, but I think they're primarily a big refining operation. Look at this big symmetrical triangle that it erupted out of. Here again, in March. That was the week of March 10th for the big move. And then we had for 4 weeks in a row. Now we've pulled back for 4 weeks in a row. So again, watching to see, do we get our legs underneath us and get back up? I mean, the move that it did, look at this. The RSI, now I use a 10-bar RSI, but the RSI got to 86.6, pretty strong. Kind of a strong indication of momentum. Okay, so again, watching all of these along with what's happening with XLE and with oil, and we'll see what happens if it wants to continue to go up. I don't think oil's going anywhere in terms of disappearing for quite a while. All right, that's it for this weekend. If you felt like the video was helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber to the channel, hit that little subscriber button. And head on over to joehenches.net. Check out the website. Check out the membership. Everyone have a great week. Rest of the weekend, great week. Talk to you on the next video.